The want ads can be interesting to look at, the want ads. Some time ago in the want ads, there was an advertisement in the want ads that read, "Wanted, a man. I will marry any man who will give my destitute parents $3,500. There were no particular qualifications, only a price. If we could advertise in the want ads, looking for what we need most today in terms of the kinds of people that the world needs most, what would we look for? We have plenty of scientists, plenty of politicians, and some would say too many politicians, teachers, professionals, semi-professionals, blue-collar workers, white-collar workers. What the world needs now, someone said recently, what the world needs now above all are men and women of character. Men and women of character. Years ago, General Omar Bradley, who was a very renowned general during World War II, spoke words that are still valid today, and he said, "In today's world we have many men of science, but too few men of God. We have grasped the mystery of the atom, but rejected the Sermon on the Mount. We know more about war than we do about peace, more about killing than we do about living." What most of all do we need in the world if it isn't people of character, of the right kind of character? In this scripture from St. Paul today in Philippians, he talks about people of character. He says, your attitude must be Christ's. Your attitude must be Christ. That's what being a person of character is. A person of character has the attitude, the values, the worldview of Jesus Christ. I think you agree that times are trying. In some ways, these times are desperate. The need is urgent, wanted. People of a Christ-like character. Some years ago, CBS conducted a questionnaire, a survey, a study about the common kinds of misconduct that were prevalent in schools at that time. And this, I think, was in the 60s. In the 1960s, what we found true in schools in terms of problems was this: talking out of turn, cutting in line, not having the proper dress code, messy, sloppy papers. Now, in 2005, what were the common problems in schools? Misconduct has escalated, including violence, vandalism, depression, absenteeism, and substance abuse. We just look at the changes in our times in terms of behavior in school, causes us to pause and to reflect upon the urgency that we have in helping our young people cultivate a Christ-like character. And that begins with you and me, cultivating a character which is like Christ. A lot of changes have occurred over the past 40 or 50 years, and a lot of good things have happened. But I think we also need to recognize that there have been a lot of things that have happened in society these things are taking us in the wrong direction. And so we have to know what we believe in, what we're going to stand for, and what we don't believe in, and what we're going to resist. We find people of character not just anywhere today. We find people of character in homes, first of all, where parents are really helping their young people understand what's important in life and what's not important. Character cannot be purchased. You can't buy character. You can't bargain for it. You can't inherit character. You can't rent character. You can't import character. Character has to be homegrown. It is important that people know what you stand for. And it's equally important that people know what you won't stand for. What you stand for and what you won't stand for. To be people of a Christ-like character means to know what we stand for, what we believe in. And what we won't stand for, what we know needs to be addressed. The evils that we need to face, the wrongdoing that we need to confront. Young people today are in need of direction, I believe, as is true of every age. But it seems to be even a little more urgent today, that our young people need direction for their lives, and there's no better traffic director for life than Jesus Christ. The only way we're going to survive as a civilization, I believe, is to begin to identify clearly what we stand for as Catholics and what we won't stand for. Our parents passed on to us the values that we should treasure. And we need to examine our consciences as to whether or not we're passing on to our young people the values and the attitudes of Christ, the virtues of the Christian living, as faithfully to our children as we have received it from our parents. The world needs urgently people of a Christ-like character who understand and have taken their faith to heart. One of my favorite stories about Christ-like character is a story of a young girl. She had an accident, small child, young girl, rushed to the hospital. She was in danger of death, and she needed a blood transfusion. The only person available for the blood transfusion was her smaller little brother. And so the doctor called the little brother in and said, "Son, your sister's very sick, and if she doesn't get your blood, she's going to die. Will you give her some of your blood?" Without hesitation, little boy looked up with big brown eyes and said, "Yes. Yes, I will." And so they hooked up the transfusion and took the blood. Afterwards, the little boy was resting, and the doctor came in to congratulate him and said, "Son, you did very well. You gave your blood. It's a beautiful thing." And the little boy looked up at the doctor and said, "Doctor, when am I going to die? When am I going to die?" That child understood that by giving his blood, he was giving his life for his sister. And he gave it freely, without hesitation. He gave everything. He was willing to give his life. That's Christ-like character. Somebody did a good job with that child, most likely his parents, passing on to that child the virtues of Christian life, knowing what we stand for, and passing that on. Christ-like character. One of the things that is important to think about often is the simple truths of our faith. To really tune in over and over again to what we believe in and what we don't believe in. There's a story about an editor in a small town somewhere that found extra space in his newspaper one morning, and so he listed the 10 Commandments, and the next day he had a letter from somebody who was irate and said, "Cancel my subscription to your newspaper. Your insert was just too negative for me." The 10 Commandments, too negative. The 10 Commandments are all about a Christ-like character, really. They're not really just do's and don'ts. They're all about what we will do and what we won't do, what we stand for and what we don't stand for as believers in Jesus. What the world needs now are people of Christ-like character who stand up for what they believe, and who stand up and talk and speak boldly about what we won't believe and what we won't stand for, people of commitment to the truth. In the gospel today, Jesus calls us to a consistent Christian life, to mean what we say and say what we mean, to be people of total commitment to Him and to His truth. If it were possible to run an ad in the want ads about what we need most at this juncture in history, what would it say? Perhaps something like this: wanted. Wanted. Urgently needed in every home, school, and workplace. People of a Christ-like character who know what they stand for and what they won't stand for. How would you or how would I answer that ad? How many would answer that ad and say yes?